What is shaking, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get clients with podcasts. Not necessarily your own podcast, but other people's podcasts. So, what is going on, my man Oasis? What's shaking, dude?
What's up, man? This is a really interesting topic. Really interesting. I mean, I'm just slowly dipping my toes into this. So, this is gonna be a really good topic to talk about.
Well, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. Sorry, all you cat
Oh,
lovers. But I'm going to share with you my experience
yeah.
with how I've been leveraging not only my own podcast, but other people's podcasts to generate a tremendous amount of traffic to my personal brand, but also generate a lot of revenue. Podcasting, whether I'm a guest or a host, has been a major source of lead and income for my business. And I want to share this with all the other subject matter experts out there that are looking for a real solid lead gen source and revenue source for their business. See, the big problem that a lot of subject matter experts deal with when it comes to getting involved in podcasting is they do not specialize enough in what it is that they talk about. So they either get too much in their heads and they're like, well, I could talk about this, I could talk about that. That's a big problem because then the host is not going to be too understanding in the value that you're going to be able to provide for their audience, because we're all looking for great guests. But if you're all over the place, we're not quite sure how you're going to be able to serve our audience. That's problem number one. Problem number two is you don't have a funnel set up properly for conversion. So you almost have to, it's the cart before the horse, right? You could go out there and you can be on tons of podcasts or record tons of podcasts, but not have that back end set up to get people down your funnel to buying. So I'm going to share with you how to set up your funnel for podcasting and really help you become that specialist that all of these podcast hosts, including myself, are looking for in order to get you more exposure and get you more business. So we are going to get into the nuts and bolts of this right after this quick little message. If you're a business owner who feels your branding isn't truly representing the value that you deliver, check out this free video training that will help you level up your brand's messaging and online presence so that you can start attracting higher quality clients. Visit www.uniquedesignz with a Z at the end, not an S, .net/level up my branding. All right, Oasis. So how do we get started with this process of getting more clients through podcasts?
Ooh, okay. First bullet point is know your expertise. What is that area of expertise? And that's, again, that's what you can talk about all day long. Uh, and you talked about you're not specialized as part of the problem, right? But perhaps what if you are specialized, but when it comes down to communicating that specialization, you don't have enough clarity around that. I went through that myself, right? We're running up to this 1 year sort of a mark right now, right? But a year ago, I had stacked up almost 10 years in business working with B2B clients, significantly large list of client list from of 9 different industries. Yet I was coming in with this lack of clarity and confidence in terms of how I can express that specialization in a public format like this. And so, what really helped me during that entire time is, you challenged me. It's like, okay, well, start posting. and start expressing your perspective around various topics, and bring your experience from all those, working with all those different types of clients.
There you go.
And so now, and again, it's through repetition. It's like over and over again. Now you start getting some clarity, and I can't express this enough. When you start writing down your thoughts, writing down your ideas, you really clarify how you're approaching, especially in your business, how you're approaching various things differently. And that's what's going to set you apart. That's what's going to express and convey your expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to kick it back to you. What is it that, like, I mean, you've been on tons of podcasts for over the course of the last couple of years. What is it that you talk about forever when you get on those
Monetizing
podcasts?
yourself, branding yourself. Like I could talk about that forever. How to become a stronger communicator, whether it's personally or professionally. Like I tend to stay in the more professional element, but I could talk about that forever. I have a decade and a half worth of stories being an entrepreneur that I could share with you that I completely bombed and I completely won on so many different levels. But I could talk about personal branding forever. I could talk about how to monetize yourself and how to separate yourself and position yourself from everybody else for hours. Now, there's other things that I love to talk about too, like crypto, like cannabis, like personal development, marketing, things like that. But I choose not to when I get on these podcasts, unless somebody calls me out and says, hey, listen, I know you're in the cannabis space as a co-founder of a dispensary. We would love to have you on as, a special guest to share with us your journey in that space. Okay, then I could talk about that for hours. But if the majority of the time, I'm out there trying to help other subject matter experts brand themselves, look like $1 million online so that they can charge the part and bring in that $1 million of revenue with their brand identity and messaging. So that's it in a nutshell. Because I've been doing this for so long, it comes very naturally to me to share the wins, the losses, and everything in between. So that's step one.
Yeah.
So understanding your expertise and knowing how to articulate it. And I'm going to give you a very cool example, a visual example, a little bit later in the show that I think every subject matter expert should have in their branding arsenal before they get out there and start recording podcasts. Okay.
And
now,
one key point that one key point that you just mentioned is why you try to stick to that particular topic, particularly on brand, because yes, I mean, you have content around personal growth, professional growth, and all of those things as well. However, you maintain a business oriented, and you stay focused on what's the core aspect of your business. And so, those in the audience I'd really want them to take away this piece is again, what are you going to go on there and talk about? Make sure you stay aligned to your core offering.
I'll give you a quick example. We're going back 5-6 years ago when I first started really putting myself out there on social media. I would only talk about personal development stuff. So my wife was getting text messages. I was getting text messages like, did you stop doing design? Like, what's your husband up to these days? Is he trying to be like a motivational speaker? Like what's going on? And there was a huge confusion of what I was doing. I never made the announcement like, this is the route that I'm going. And I was so far away from the content that I was putting out on social media was so far away from what I actually do. It was confusing the hell out of my audience. So I had to tie it back. I had to start reconfiguring and really getting intentional with my social media content to let everybody know, like, I'm still doing branding, but these are some of the personal development things that I'm going through as I continue to build this business that I want to share to create connection. So that was a big learning, like that was a big diversion. So like I could have got there in 2 hours, but it took me 4 because I went that route and I didn't really know it. Right.
And you course
So
corrected.
yeah, that's the biggest takeaway is you gotta course correct. You gotta, and how did that happen? I got coached. I brought
And you were
somebody.
listening to your audience.
Yeah, I was, and that too. But the coach saw it and said, I'm confused here with this look at all these videos. They have nothing to do with branding. So that was huge. Now, I'm going to get a little tactical here. So the next step, once you've identified and clarified your expertise and you know how to articulate it, the second thing I want you to do is make a list of all the podcasts that are complementary to your niche. Okay. What does that mean? Like, for example, on my podcast, I have copywriters come on. I have sales consultants come on. These are all complementary to branding, right? So they're going to serve my audience in a different way, right? They're going to bring in an expertise that's complementary or cousins to what I do, which is going to make the show way more well-rounded than me just talking about branding all day long, right? Same thing as a host. Same thing as a guest. When you come into a show, you bring in that spice. Hosts like myself are looking for that to kind of chop up the monotony of talking about branding every single episode. So it works both ways.
That's right.
The other way to bring in the other thing to think about, let's say if you have a podcast of your own, okay, is to use Sales Navigator. Okay. This has been a huge tool in my repertoire of generating very high quality leads and getting great people on my show. So I just Googled Sales Navigator, you come here, and then you sign up. You get a free trial. I think they give you 2 weeks or even a month. They're pretty generous. And what Sales Navigator does, it is a filtering tool inside of LinkedIn where you can put in very specific criteria to find very high quality guests for your podcast. I can't tell you how much money Sales Navigator generated for me over the years by putting in that criteria and taking the time to cherry pick specific people that became clients after they were on my show. So Sales Navigator, an excellent tool to leverage when searching for guests. Now I just noticed I just X'd out of something that I needed to show you guys. So I got to go find that real quick again. The love of live streaming, right? Why don't you talk about developing your pitch, Oasis, while I get this image up to show everybody later on.
Sure. Okay. So you're on LinkedIn Sales Navigator or whatever your marketing outreach might look like for cultivating, relationships with podcast hosts. What do you say to them? What is it that you're going to offer to them for them to be compelled to say, okay, you know what, this is a potential guest that I want to have on. The first thing you're going to do is create a pitch, and you got to keep it brief. You got to make sure that it's not just like anything else. Just make sure that you're not overloading them with information. So the overall the overarching theme there is to make sure, I think Henry's shown something before, where it's a single page profile, and it has very short statements about what is it that you're bringing to the table, what is it that you're bringing to the conversation, and why should they have you on the show? What is it that
Right.
you're, again, what's their audience going to gain as a result of that person having a conversation with you on that particular show?
Right. And that's where you have to be straight to the point. I get 50, 60 of these emails a week, like, we have a great guest for your show. Here he is. And then I open up the email and it's 14 pages long. I'm not reading that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. So that's one thing you don't do when you're
exactly.
pitching a show. Gotta keep
Consider,
it.
consider people's attention spans now. 3 seconds. That's all you have. You have a 3-second window. Can you imagine that? So you've got to hook them in right away with a one-liner that says, this is why this person is going to be great for you and your audience. This is what you're going to gain from this.
I'll tell you one thing. The one, there's like a little bit of a format that I'm noticing that people are sending me via email that has been working. Okay. The one is, hey, I checked out your episode 9,081. Feels like that's how many podcasts I've done. And I noticed you mentioned this, and I just want to say thank you for that. And as a thank you, I left you a review on iTunes. So that's huge for podcasters to get those types of reviews. So right away, you got my attention because you left a review and you showed some love. Okay. Again, the law of reciprocity starts to kick in here, but not all the time. Like you could do that and still be a wash, and I'm not going to have you on the show because I don't think you're there, but you're starting off on the right foot. Right. But I got to tell you, then they kept the email super brief. Here's a quick little bio about me or the potential guest. Here's why we think they're a good fit. Here are some talking points that I think would be a value to your audience. And then I'll review the talking points. And if I think they make sense, I'll say, all right, here's the link to book. Now, if you really want to impress a podcast host like myself, create an EPK, an electronic press kit for yourself. And this is what I want to show you. Okay. So this is the one that I created for myself, that I used to have an agency pitch, but I also now use it to pitch it myself. Okay. So electronic press kit is definitely going to impress the hell out of guests. So right away, as you scroll down, what's the first thing I do? How Henry can provide value to your audience. And then areas of expertise: brand development and strategy, brand positioning, personal branding, social media marketing, funnel design and architecture, brand strategy and design. So I'm showing people right away what I could talk about. Potential topics of discussion: 3 social media marketing strategies, how to scale your expertise, how to position yourself, 4 ways to use sales and marketing funnels. Powerful stuff. Potential interview questions. We could do one show on the first question alone, right?
That's
So
right.
I'm taking all of the heavy lifting off of the podcast hosts' shoulders, and I'm giving them layups. Then I get into my bio and backstory. Showcase my expertise and my professional. Two Comma Club awards. So I'm doing a little bit of a flex here, but I'm showing people this is the value. I'm no Joe Schmo off the street that's just looking to get on another podcast. I have some important things to say, and I have some experience behind me that is that could be valuable to your audience. Then I actually have a video embedded. So if you click this, it actually brings you to the video, and it's the whole video of my backstory. And of course, I just exited out of the damn thing again. so, I'm gonna bring me back in.
Well, okay. So while you're bringing that up, something to notice here. If I hope everyone notices a pattern before we get to your bio, Henry, is you've kept it in a bite-sized piece format.
Yes.
They
Yes.
scan through it and they know exactly what to talk to you about. What is it that you're bringing to the show? And then if they want to read a little further, then you've provided a more detailed bio with a video. I mean, this is super helpful. I
Yep.
can look at this on the go on my phone. I mean, the format
Yep.
that you've actually built here, I can take a look at this on my phone
Yep.
and get a snapshot in less than a minute
Yep.
of whether I want you on my podcast or not.
Yep. And I make it super easy. So we have hyperlinks here. So all you have to do is click on the icons and it's going to take you right to iTunes. It's going to take you right to Spotify. Then if you come down here, all these social icons are clickable. It's going to take you right to Instagram. Oh, that's the old one. I knew I uploaded the wrong one. But it'll take you right to Instagram. It'll take you right to LinkedIn. So let me go back here for a second because I want to show you. There we go. There we go. So when you come here, I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. It takes you right to my Instagram. Okay. And then we come here. So that's how you're going to impress the hell out of a podcast guest. And then I have a quote at the bottom that really it's like a hook, right? And you hear me talking about this all the time, right? I say this on all my stuff. That's my tagline. So an EPK is huge for you when it comes to developing your pitch, strengthening your pitch, establishing your position, showcasing your expertise, and making it super easy for your audience, for the host of that podcast to choose you over somebody else. You send me an EPK like that, and I'm like, I can't send you the booking link fast enough.
There you go. So, again, we've been able to articulate our expertise. We've been, we've dialed into all of that. Got the EPK. What's next? What happens now?
Okay. So now you have to develop your funnel. Okay. Now you have to develop your funnel. So I'm going to take this super granular. So take some notes. All right. Step one is you got to create some sort of email list for either guests or hosts. Okay. You could use ActiveCampaign. If you go to uniquedesignz.net/tools, you're going to have a page full of digital marketing tools that you can literally sign up for immediately or trial out. And I use ActiveCampaign. ActiveCampaign is fantastic. And I have over, 6,000-7,000 people on my list at this point. It's not a gigantic list, but it's a ripe list. I like to call it. It's people are constantly interacting with me, and my open rates are high because the people on the list are quality people, right? So you want to create an email list, and then every podcast you go on, make sure you got a copy of that email of that host, right? If you have a guest, make sure you got an email from that guest and you create that list. Once you get done recording that podcast, whether you're a guest or a host, think of other ways that you can collaborate with them other than doing just a one-off podcast. See, I think a lot of people get on the show and they try to siphon as much audience membership from that podcast as they possibly can without realizing that the host of that show may actually be your ideal client, as well as the podcast audience itself. So that's number one. Number two is you want to actually build a relationship with that person. So, for example, when somebody comes on my show and I really enjoyed the conversation, I'm going to tell them, you know what? Why don't you do a live stream with me on Instagram in a couple weeks? I'll send you a link. They're called IG Flash classes, and we could do very similar format to what we got here, but it's 20 minutes long. It's a wham bam, thank you, ma'am type of show, and you're out the door. Why don't you come on my live stream show on YouTube and all the other platforms that I stream on, and we'll do another version of this podcast, but we'll do it more on video. Sounds like a plan. Henry, I have a podcast. Why don't you come on my podcast? I have some stuff. I have a live event that I'm doing next month. Henry, I want you to come speak at it. This is what I'm talking about. So look for other ways to collaborate above and beyond just that one-off podcast. You're building that relationship with that person. And if you use Sales Navigator and you've taken the time to really vet the people that you want on the show, you're going to win, right? Because that's going to turn into a working relationship, a partnership. That's how Fabio and Viviani and I started working together. We connected on Instagram, and we just kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And now we're partners on a program, which you're going to be hearing a lot more of in the next 30 to 60 days when we roll this puppy out. I'm so excited for it. And he's going to be on the show before you know it as well to promote the event. Now, when you finish your podcast or you're a guest and you finish the show, okay, there's some pointed questions you could ask the other person, right? So, for example, I asked this question on my podcast to the guest because I want you guys to get the answer because you guys are probably thinking, wow, I struggle with that too. So there could be some value add for you. But let's say you don't ask the question live. The question that you should ask that person is, what's the big challenge you're facing right now inside of your business? And they're going to tell you. Now, you may have that solution. You may be able to put them in the right direction. Maybe you say that's not your wheelhouse. Again, we're going to appreciate that because we're going to be like, wow, this person's really helpful. Or wow, this person may have the solution to my problem.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And then the other thing that I want you to do is if you really want to work with that person, offer them a freebie. And depending on the caliber of person, right? Let's say they're more of a veteran in the space, whatever the space is. You might want to say to them, listen, I know you've been doing this a while. I see some areas of improvement. I usually charge $1,000 for consulting. Let me give you a free session. Let me show you. Let me point out a few things. If you're open to it, free of charge. Thanks for having me on your show. Sure. Let's do it. All right. Let's get our calendars open. Let's book it now. That's the key. Don't wait. Don't send them a link. Get them on your calendar right then and there. Okay.
No,
that's for the seasoned. Yeah. That's for the seasoned host, right? The newbie host, or you could tell that they're kind of green. You could offer them free access to a digital product. You can free access to a video course or something like that, right? Where they will kind of consume it at their own pace. I highly recommend the other one because you're going to get more of you're going to get more traction there, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I mean by giving away some of your expertise for free. Okay. It sounds crazy. It sounds a little counterintuitive. You might be saying, but Henry, you said 5 months ago, don't give away anything for free. If you do it correctly, the ROI is massive. Is massive. So that's huge. So last but not least, guys, and then we'll get to a couple questions because I see a couple questions here in the audience. And if anybody has any additional questions here, please drop them in the comments. We'll make sure that you're featured, and we'll get those questions answered. But the one thing that I really want you guys to pay attention to is it's not just about getting on a podcast and trying to attract a bunch of listeners to your product or service. Yeah, that's one part of it. But pay attention to the host themselves. You have direct communication with them already. You're starting to build up rapport and a relationship by being on their show. Focus on the host as your potential client, not just their audience members, because you're halfway there already. You might, so that's something that you really, really got to pay attention to when you're leveraging podcasts to get clients. So this live stream, I've sort of seesawed in between you having your own show or not having your own show and going on other podcasts to get clients. I'm telling you guys, it's going to take some time, especially if you're new at this, to get a cadence, to get a rhythm. But once you find it, this funnel strategy works tremendously well. So anything that I missed there, always, before we jump into some questions?
I want to touch on your last point about asking some pointed questions, because that is powerful. Because you're leaving them, what you're doing is you're planting a seed. You're leaving them with something to think about. And this kind of touched me right now because last week I was at a networking event and I reconnected with someone that I met last year sometime, and we had a good 1 hour call afterwards. He said, Wais, I remember you telling me one thing at the end of the call that still stuck with me. And I still asked myself the same question. I was like, okay, what was it? He was like, what is that one question that you can ask that compels your prospect to act?
Okay, what was it?
Well, no, that's what I asked him. Yeah, that's what I told him. I was like, look, I challenge you, and I was saying this a lot last year. It's like, what is that one question you can ask that compels your prospect to take that next step and say, okay, well, Henry, you know what? Go ahead and send me that link to schedule that 30-minute assessment. Right? Or Henry, yeah, you know what? This brand accelerator program looks pretty good to me. It makes sense. Let's move forward. What is that one question that you can ask that essentially what it does is it triggers that need immediately, triggers that urgency, and it's tied to your specific expertise. That's the key element there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's powerful, and you leave that at the very end.
Yep. So just to piggyback on what you just said, there was something. So I had a coaching call with my executive coach yesterday, and she's got her ways of planting massive seeds in my head that served me extremely well. Okay. She said to me, Henry, what you believe, you prove. What you believe, you prove. So if you believe that you can't afford it, you're going to do everything to show the universe that you can't afford it. If you believe you can afford it, you're going to prove to yourself that you can afford it. So let me share with you a quick example. I mentioned earlier, I was on a podcast earlier today, and I was explaining to the guests that I'm a co-founder of a cannabis dispensary. And I was explaining to them how in the beginning of putting this business together, it was an uphill battle. it was extremely difficult to get to certain milestones. And you could ask my father, you could ask my best friend, you could ask my wife. I was saying to myself, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this off. There's a lot of moving parts here. And if we can't get past go, we're never going to make it. And thank God I had so much support, because they kept saying, Henry, something's going to give, something's going to give, something's going to give. And I just kept believing that this thing was going to come into fruition. So we're talking about 90 days, guys. We're talking about 3 months of no traction. Then we get to about 30 days from submission of application, and everything starts to go. Everything starts to connect. We get an investor, we get a location, we get this, we get that, we get a municipality, we get vetted by a municipality, and they want to talk to us for a second call, and now we're 2 weeks out, and everything is coming together like glue. I believed that this was going to happen in my life. So I proved to the universe that I was serious about opening up this dispensary. And look what the universe is serving to me. So that's what I want you guys to really get an understanding of. What you believe, you will prove in your life.
Yeah, internal dialogue is powerful, man. And to add to what you said, belief is one piece, but when you talked about affordability, being able to afford or cannot afford, it's what you tell yourself, and you ask yourself, how can I afford this? How can I accomplish this?
Mm-hmm.
And things will start to connect the more and more you ask yourself how, rather than why you can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I want to get to some questions here. Peter Butler says, how many podcasts do you both listen to? There's so many. I have about 3-4 that I try to consistently listen to. Yeah, same here. I have a handful, maybe a half a dozen that I listen to. I listen to one daily. It's called Robin Hood Snacks. It's a phenomenal podcast. Big shout out to Nick and what the hell's his name? Nick and Jack. They're awesome podcast hosts. And they do a podcast every day called Robin Hood Snacks. Phenomenal. It's from the Robin Hood app, the stock app. But yeah, I keep it to a handful. There's so many of them. You could drown in the amount of podcasts, but you find the ones that you connect with, and those are your go-tos. Absolutely. But here's the bigger question, and I think we answered it with what we just talked about believing and proving that belief. So how do you make time if you're thinking about making your own podcast, running a business, 4 kids, helping parents, homeschool? It's a lot, dude.
Oh, man.
I got 1 kid in my hand. I feel like my hands are full. So God bless you, Pete, for having 6 and holding it down.
Wow,
and
that's amazing.
Running a business. And I just give so much props to those types of folks that are doing it. Time management, my friend. I wish there was another answer that I could give you, but the more you can delegate and get out of your own way, you're going to free up time. Like right after this podcast, I have some design stuff that needs to get done for a website that we're going to launch literally in the next 24 hours. I could crank out those designs right now if I wanted to. I'm delegating it to my team. Why? Because that frees me up to prep for the cannabis meeting I have tonight at 5. So that's what I'm talking about. So it's time management, it's delegation, it's asking yourself, what do you have more time? What do you have more of, time or money? That's a real serious conversation you got to have for yourself. And anything that, so I know people that delegate their entire life, and that's all they do is what they love, which I love. I would get a little bored of that. So I have to stay busy, but man, I give them a lot of credit to be able to find that resource and delegate to it without batting an eye.
Some people just master a delegation, though. I have some clients that are like that. They're just master delegators, and they've been able to scale their companies beyond what's imaginable. Uh, but in addition to those three components, I've been challenged with this, and as a matter of fact, this person tells a lot of people to rethink their current approach. When you say I don't have time or I'm limited on time, well, he challenges back and says, is it a matter of time or is it a matter of priority?
That's it.
So then
That's
you
it.
have to, again, it's just a readjustment, so to
Yeah.
speak, and rethinking about your position about, is this thing a priority for me? Or am I making, I don't want to say making excuses, but is it something that I'm putting in a back burner because it's not? And I'm
Yeah.
using time as a reason.
I was introduced to a concept yesterday called the double agent. And the double agent is that little voice in your head that you think is on your side and they're protecting you, but what they're really doing is sabotaging you. Right? I'll give you a quick example. You could very easily start to think in your head, oh my God, gas prices. Oh my God, inflation. Oh my God, it's so expensive to live. Oh my God, nobody's going to buy my stuff because I'm so expensive. I better start cutting, slashing prices. I better start doing this, and that. I better start tucking money away. Oh my God. And then the next thing you know, you're literally in the corner of your office in a fetal position because the double agent has you so shook and you start believing him.
Yeah.
So you start becoming smaller and smaller. Here's what you got to do when the double agent starts knocking on the door and getting in your head. I promised myself I wouldn't curse on these live streams as much anymore. You got to give him a big fat middle finger and tell him, beat it, squid.
There you go.
And get out of my head. You're not real. You're not trying to help me. You're actually getting in my way. It sounds so childish. It sounds so silly. But I got to tell you, it works. It works. So when that double agent presents himself, tell him where to go because he's just getting in your way. He's not there to help you. He's there to sabotage you. So keep trucking. Keep trucking. So I know we went way over today, but there was some great viewership. There was some great participation. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, we are live every Monday, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. We bring topics to you all about brand strategy and brand awareness and design identity to help subject matter experts like yourself build profitable and reputable brands. Listen, if you're looking for elevated next level marketing strategies, if you're looking to really present yourself like $1 million brand, you want to look like $1 million online so you could generate that $1 million, then book a one-on-one assessment with me today. It is the first step of the branding process that I take my clients through to make sure we got a solid baseline of where you're at, where you want to go, and how I can help you get there. And all you have to do is go to the website there that I just flown on the screen and book that assessment, and we will start that process. Because let me tell you something, when you could look the part, you could charge the part. And the quality of your brand will determine the quality of your clients, and the quality of your clients are going to determine the quality of your life. Bottom line. So, always appreciate you as always. I will see you on Monday, my friend. Appreciate everybody watching. Make sure you subscribe and do those bell things and clicks and whatever you got to do, because we're just getting fired up here this year, and look forward to serving you on these live workshops
This is awesome, man.
in the near future. So have an amazing day, everybody. and we'll catch you on the next one.